Hello, Wasteland! Yes, welcome back, brothers! That's right, we're here for Gaslands UK's Car of the Month competition video for December 2022, the Paris-Dakar month. That's right, so the last Car of the Month competition video for 2022. My goodness, what a year it has been, boys and girls. Because we always tend to do quite cold, wintry themes in December, don't we? I can't imagine why, but yes, this month's sponsor Nick Iyer over at North Star Military Figures decided to say, you know what, it's too bloody cold here in Blighty at the moment, so let's ignore all of that. Let's imagine the sun and the sea and the sand. Well, mostly the sand. That's right, a Paris-Dakar themed month. And what a month it has been, my goodness. So, just before we get into the body of the video, can we just say a massive thank you over to Nick Iyer of North Star Military Figures and his incredible, burning, blazing generosity for this month and previous months, because this month he has offered prizes for first and second place of 2 implements of Carnage sprue, which, come on, guys, you know North Star Military Figures. Head on over to the website, check out their lines of models. I mean, you're not going to see metal people like this since the good old days of Dark Future and Car Wars, boys and girls, okay? Like, go and check this out. These designs are inspired, and the implements of Carnage sprue need no introduction. So, 2 for first place and 2 for second place. So, with a prize like that, as I said, Paris-Dakar. So, looking at 4x4s, looking at buggies, looking at crossing the desert as fast as you physically can, not getting caught or stuck or bogged down, and, you know, some dirt bikers as well. And I know a lot of you this month decided to just stick purely to 4x4s and cars, but, you know, you could have gone dirt bikes, you could have gone, but then again, it is Car of the Month, isn't it? So yes, an absolutely outrageous theme for this month, and what can I say, with 20 finished entrants, we are seeing out this year strong, boys and girls. So from the top, let's have a look at everyone who finished. We have Adam Pollard, Brett Nugent, Caleb Hines, Xaber Bodnar, Daniel Mumford, Dave Bousset, Daz Phillips, Hardo Payus, James Hall, Josh Cottrell, Keith McAvoy, Kev Williams, Matt Morrill, Nava Fishman Cherry, if that's how you pronounce it, Nick Kitch, Princept One, Richard Hubbard, Travis Usner, William Burke, and of course your friend and mine, Zach Steiner. So let's start by looking at Caleb Hines' entry, and oh my goodness, what a silhouette that is. What a beast of a vehicle. That's a monster of a truck, isn't it? You know, I get the feeling this is a bit more of a sort of a support vehicle than it is the main racer in a Paris-Dakar sort of desert rally sort of team build, especially with the giant sled, the sort of tank track trailer sled, which I think is made of zip ties, being pulled behind it, being towed behind it, filled with, well, what can I only sort of imagine is cars and other contestants, and the enormous crane arm with that, what I can only imagine is meant to be like a giant electromagnet or some kind of equivalent. I think there's a lot going on here, Caleb. It feels like you wanted to do 3 different builds all at the same time. You know, you've got this giant monster truck recovery vehicle, you've got this scrap and salvage trader, you've got the sled, you've got the recovered vehicle. There's a lot to look at, there's a lot to see, and it's just picking one idea, 2 ideas, and just slowing it down, focusing in on them. Like the truck body itself, the trader truck with all the loot to sell, absolutely fantastic. The gigantic crane arm being operated by the guy in the converted, what looks like a Camaro cab, I think that's a fantastic touch. And at the same time, that claw, that sort of giant electromagnet, I think that's absolutely fantastic. But what gets me is just, I mean, the paint jobs, everything's been done in certain colours like orange or purple or blue, and then everything's been dry brush silver, and then everything's been dry brushed with a sand colour, and that's it, straight onto the table, done. Which works for terrain, but this is a competition, Caleb. You gotta focus in on those areas like that truck cab. It didn't need the silver dry brush. It could have just been blue. It would have been better just solid blue. Same for the traders sort of trailer bit on the back of it. That could have just been purple. It didn't need the metal dry brush. It didn't need any of the dust on it. When you're just doing like a solid dry brush over everything, details get covered over and deleted in effect. Like you've got a passenger hanging out the driver's cab with a machine gun who is just silver and blue because that's what you were dry brushing on the truck cab. So no, you should have slowed it down. And you can, because if we look at the guy operating the crane, you have pulled out like red for the shirt and blue for the jeans and black gloves that he's wearing. So you can do it. It's just, I know the time crunch, it gets us all, my friend, but what can I say? It is a monster of an entry. And then following hot on his heels, we have Darren Phillips's entry. Oh my goodness, Darren, behave yourself, my friend. Look at this wonderful scratch-built monstrosity of a vehicle, which I can clearly identify the Camsel Design 3D printed parts being used in and around the build. I think that's a brilliant touch. But you boys and girls at home, if you're looking at this and not understanding, this is a completely scratch built entry. Everything here, the piping work, the framework, the body, the wheels are 3D printed. I mean, there are a few Games Workshop bits and pieces like these auto cannons being used for the sort of suspension struts on the front wheels, but the majority of this is just done by hand. I'd love to see a scale comparison shot next to another car, because it really, you really look at it and go, because there's nothing quite like it. Whenever you scratch build something, you are making something from nothing. You're making it from thin air. So you don't necessarily have anything to kind of go, oh, well, I know how that big is. I mean, I do, because I recognise all these bits and I'm a maestro, but you know what I'm saying, Darren. Like, let's get a photo of it next to something else. But my goodness, the level of detail, the tribal markings, you know, those wonderful go faster stripes, all the little fiddly bits. Maybe a bit more difference in the colour, because it is just red, white, green, black, silver, bit of flesh tone on the driver, and that's it. You could have put in some little like blues or like that jerry can. If you'd done that yellow, it would have stood out so nicely against the rest of it. But no, absolutely rock solid work, Darren. My goodness, you know, I have to come up with something to criticise you on, don't I? Because look how good this thing is. My goodness. And then hot on his heels, we have Hardo Pius's entry, and oh yes, what can I say, Hardo? Very nice work. However, I think we can all look at this and agree, this next to Darren's entry, I mean, come on, they're clearly part of the same Idris team. Look at this, the red, the white, it just works. It's wonderful. But what can I say? I think a lot of people would have skipped straight past this going, oh, well, you know, it's just a big red 4x4 truck. We've seen that before. On to the next entry. But there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of modification that's been done. One of the big things that caught my eye, which I know, you know, everyone's going to have glanced straight over, the top of the truck, the back of the truck, is actually a car. It's actually been modified from like a Lincoln Futura, like the Batmobiles looking kind of thing. Look at that. You know, you got the exhausts coming out where the driver and passenger would sit, which is just an absolutely fantastic touch, which I love. But the back end of it has been turned into storage for two enormous spare tyres, which just works so well because that spoiler is just perfectly sized to go around it. It's just, absolutely lovely stuff. But you look at it from other angles and it looks like this has been designed. It looks like a Hot Wheels toy ready to go, doesn't it? And that's the thing. That's the level of detail we're getting to. Now, don't get me wrong, Hardo, there's a lot here that needs working on. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am dying looking at those wheels because those are some incredibly basic wheels that you're using there. At the same time, I love all the little, you know, nods and winks to Fallout New Vegas and the Fallout franchise with Sunset Sarsaparilla and Poseidon Energy and all that. However, those transfer. I mean, you've just cut them out of like a piece of paper, haven't you, and stuck them on. They're not the most crisp things with those cutting edges. So, maybe taking a bit more time to cut those circular and semicircle sort of shapes would have done you good. The Idris banners are just beautiful, but no, a absolutely fantastic entry. What a presence this thing has! It's just a beast, isn't it? Look at that. Oh my goodness. Fantastic work, Hardo. And then after Hardo, we have Josh Cottrell's entry, who I believe is a newcomer to the competition. And man, what a way to start, your entrance to this field, because whoa, there is a lot to unpack here, isn't there? There's a lot of very fine fiddly work with that wonderful. I can only guess it's like an oil drum bomb dropper that you've got at the back there with the winch set up, because that is beautiful. I love the thread work there. I'm going to guess it's either wire or thread, because that is just so fine. But the mechanism, it works. It looks like it would function. It looks like it just drops down and rolls down the road and explodes, or spreads napalm everywhere. The cutting away the arches on the around the wheels, beautiful move. I did it myself this month. It just works so well to turn these sleek and sexy sports cars into off-road monsters, doesn't it? But oh, what a beast. The wheels are very dirty, but not in a kind of a good sort of sandy, grungy kind of way. The paint's a bit thick and the details are getting a bit lost. Like I know from other shots that those are spiked tyres. Like those are little, almost like Boadicea spikes going around the circumference of the rim on the outside of the tyres. But you look at them side on and it just blurs together. It just looks like they're riveted. I mean, because you can see the rivets nice and clearly, but the spikes just vanish. If they were pulled out in like a dark metal or something, that would have worked so nicely. I mean, Hardo, if you're looking at this, how Josh here has used his decals, beautifully applied, absolutely beautiful. And the damage, the authentic damage for where they are, like you look at that image there with the quartermaster and how the queue is being cut off, because these guys in the Wasteland, they're just going to make the modifications and not going to worry about keeping the car pretty. Oh my goodness, it works so well. What an absolutely rock solid entry, Josh, and I look forward to seeing what else you can come up with, because this is a brilliant start. And then after Josh, we have Kev Williams' entry. Oh yes, Kev. Oh my goodness, I do enjoy looking at your entries. As always, beautifully painted. However, I think what stands out for me this time around is you have done the VW truck all in just one solid shade of orange. Like, I'd have liked it if... I mean, I get that the front, like, design area around the logo is like a dark red, but just one of the door panels to be a different colour, or just the roof of the truck cab and maybe like the sides of the truck bed, like just to have them in like a white or a blue or something, just to contrast against it, would have been so nice. The surfboard's a fantastic touch. I love all the little extra details, and as always, beautifully painted North Star military figures models, as always, Kev. However, that lettering on the wipeout, mate, you do this fantastic work and then you do that. Come on, Kev. Come on. Like, a pen. I keep saying this, guys, but a pen would have been so much easier. Or a pencil. You get white pencils. You then put some clear coat over the top of that. It's not going to rub off. It's not going to go anywhere. You don't have to try and do it with a brush if you don't feel you can get the lines fine enough. And then after Kev Williams, we have Princept One's entry. Oh yes, what a scorpion of the Wasteland. Oh, my friend, you put the violence back into this competition, as always. I love it. I absolutely adore this. This is by far one of my favourites of this competition so far. Now, don't get me wrong, as a Chaos Space Marine player, I recognise that melter gun on the tail, and I wish you'd use something else because it's just a bit too recognisable. A machine gun had been fine, or a flamethrower from some other part. Just steer clear of the 40k stuff, alright? It always stands out, or at least it does to me. When you use it as a gun, it's not the right scale, alright, buddy? But man, I love the concept. I love it. I love the execution. I love how ferocious this thing looks. And I love all the thought put into the bodywork, the metalwork, like drilling holes in panels so that they would weigh less, having things look like they could just be kicked off and replaced if they got stuck in the sand. Like it just, oh, what a build. What an absolutely rock solid entry, Princep. Now, that said, the red paintwork and that white line work, it's a brilliant look, but it's just so thickly applied in one kind of pass, and that's it. Use some tape, mark those areas out. I know it's hard at the scale, but you need to use some tape because it is just too thick on there. And then after Princep's entry, we have William Burke's monster of an entry. Oh yes, look at this truck, boys and girls. Oh, I am a sucker for a monster truck going through the desert. Oh, just look at that. The colours are beautifully catching. Blue and yellow will always look good together. The 86 emblem, I am dying looking at that, William. You should have used a stencil or a decal or something instead of trying to do that by hand, because that is not so great, okay? But the rest of it is just so good. Oh, mate. And I love the fact that, because you never see this, people will do monster truck builds all the time, but you never see people do this. You never see them take a spare monster truck wheel and have it on the back or on the build somewhere. But you have done that because, of course, this being the Paris-Dakar, cross desert, endurance race, if your gigantic monster truck wheel goes, well, you're buggered, aren't you? Where are you meant to find a replacement one of them? So take one with you. It makes sense. I think it's a really rock solid build. It's just, oh boy, that lettering. Oh mate, no, William. No, don't do that. I've never told anyone to change their work after it's finished, but mate, come on now. Use a pen or a decal or a stencil or a transfer or anything else, okay, William? Because the rest of it is so good, and it's just that 86 on wherever you've done it, letting it down every single side. There is not a single good 86 on that. And then I suppose if I'm tearing other people a new one, I should probably talk about my own entry, my final entry of 2022. And of course, tear myself a new one, because I think December was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, well, I dropped out of the contest because I couldn't do it. No, baby, I was doing 12 of 12. I was doing the full year and I did it. However, I compare this to what I did for January, and the quality, it's night and day. Like, it's just so dire by comparison. And I think a big part of that is December being the monster of a month that it is. I just ran out of time. You run out of time for the actual physical build. And you're like, well, I've got to start painting or else I'm not going to be able to finish. So you have to paint it. And then you run out of time with that. And you're like, well, at some point, I've just got to call this done. So there, it's finished. And it shows. I'm not going to lie to you and be like, oh, well, even with that all said, it's still a competition winner, because no, it's not. However, it's always a learning process entering this contest, and I drew so much from this. I think given enough time, this would have been a really solid sort of contender. I think there's a lot of things that I picked up making this that I'm going to apply to a lot of builds in the future. But as builds go, I mean, it's truth. I was talking about Hardo using basic tyres. Look at my back tyres, it's the same thing. But what can you do? It's the clock, isn't it? You run out of tricks. But at the same time, getting it done, getting the year finished, it always feels good. And that's why this competition is so great, boys and girls. So, as always, fantastic work, James Hall. And now let's have a look at returning heavyweight champion, weighing in at 300 pounds, Adam Pollard's entry. Oh, yes. Now, Adam, buddy, fella, buddy, pal, buddy, look, listen, look. the outer cage work that you've done for this build, it matches the body, but it's a little wobbly in places. This car's rolled over a couple of times, if you know what I mean. It's a bit squished in places, and I get the feeling that's just from the paper clips from the wire not working with you the way that you want them to. Sometimes it's just taking that step back and looking at it and going, well, do I need this bar across the front windscreen? Do I need like these side ones that aren't lining up just right for me? But this is the thing, it's a beautifully painted build. It's an absolutely fantastic entry. I love the detail, like the little extra bits of stowage on the roof, and the wheels are what's killing me here, because that red and yellow and dirt does not work. And I'm going to say it how I see it. I'm not going to lie to you, Adam. I do not like those wheels. They're better than mine because they're not stock base car wheels. However, that red and yellow just isn't working, my friend. So, ooh. But everything else, rock solid build. Absolutely fantastic work. And then we have, returning for the second month, Brett Nugent. Oh yes, what an interesting build, Brett. I think it's car of the month, right? You don't need to make a whole team. There's a lot going on here, especially when you're building 4, maybe even 5 vehicles worth all in a single package. Like any one of those VW Beetles by themselves would have been fine. But I do love the ambition. I do love the drive to try and make a whole kind of setup, a whole team that could just be launched at once and just fly across the Sahara, across the sand dunes. I mean, I quite like the idea that this thing can sort of go diagonally. It could sort of split across as it's crossing, so you can be launching them multiples at a time. But I think this is the thing, when you're doing multiples, your attention gets drawn away from the overall. Like if you had just gone in on one of these Beetles and just really detailed it up with extra armor and the spikes and the paint and just really laid it like different coloured door panels, like that lead VW in the middle there with its hood, like rather than trying to split it across 3 Beetles and a truck that carries them. I don't know, it's a lot. There's a lot that you wanted to do. I think this is something you pick up entering the competition multiple times, and I'm sure as you return to us, Brett, for next year's, all the months next year, I'm sure you'll find this yourself. You don't have to try and do every technique and do every skill on a single build. You can split it up. You can do it across multiples. It would have been nice to see you really focus in on the roof rack storage capacity, weapons alongside stowage, alongside, oil cans and tarps and metal sheets to help them get, duck boards or whatever they're called, to help them dig themselves out of the sand on a single vehicle, rather than having 3 where the weapons are all in the same place, the spikes are all in the same place, the colours are all the same. Like, just one would have been better than 4, But at the same time, I have to applaud the ambition, because it's fantastic stuff. And finally, shall we have a look at Nick Kitch's entry? Oh yes, my goodness, Nick, what a contender here. Whoa, look at this yellow or is it orange? Orange and blue behemoth of the sand dunes. I love it. I love the stowage. I love the use of multiple Camsel design engines on that front. My goodness, that's a monster, isn't it? I love the North Star machine guns. I love all the little bits and pieces, the custom track work on, because this is a half-track ice cream truck style build that you've done for us. The gunner at the back is beautiful, because that little flash of green that you see as you go and look behind it works so nicely. The fact that it's Gulf Racing livery just works so beautifully, and at the end of the day, there is something here that just jumps out at you, doesn't it? This is a real heavyweight right here, Nick. Love it. Absolutely love it. I want to see you continue this level of work, because this is just some beautiful stuff. And the text and the lettering is beautiful. I get that it's like Russian for saying Berlin or whatever, but at the same time, it's just cool. It helps it separate it out from the pack, because we've seen American builds. It's nice to see something that's a bit mishkin, that's a bit mad science. Love it. Absolutely fantastic. The rust is to die for, Nick. It's to absolutely die for. My goodness. But this is it, boys and girls. For the last time in 2022, it is time for us to announce a winner. It is time for us to announce this month's winner. So, without any more beating around the bush, the winner of Gaslands UK's Car of the Month competition for December 2022 is Darren Phillips. Yes, congratulations, Darren. Weighing in for the second time this year, brothers. That's right, Darren blew us all away when he won back in September's competition with his all-terrain vehicle. Well, he has continued that beautiful work, that beautiful hand craftsmanship with his entry this month. Oh my goodness. Without a shadow of a doubt, once the pictures started pouring through, well, of his fabrication, of the green stuff work, of the level of detail he was going for with this build, I think we could all see where this contest was going, couldn't we? We could all see this is what it was building up to. And it goes to show this isn't just about a good paint job or a good conversion or, oh, I found this 3D printed bit, I'll put that on there and that perfects the build. No, this is about you. It's about what you can come up with. And Darren, buddy, friend, my goodness, as I said, what absolutely fantastic work this month. Absolutely fantastic, like just unanimous decision amongst the admin team. This was it. This was the heavyweight for this month. My goodness. And continuing that trend of incorporating parts that a lot of us have access to coming from a 40k Warhammer background, alongside bits that are readily available on our vast collection of sponsors' websites. You know, this is what this competition is about. It's about promoting that creativity, and it's about that finished polish, because my goodness, look at it. Look at this work of art that you have made, Darren. Fantastic work, my friend. Absolutely fantastic. Your second victory for 2022. You're already in the Hall of Fame, my friend, and I can't wait to see what you come up with going into 2023. Oh yes. So congratulations, Darren Phillips, for winning this month's competition. 2 vehicles of Carnage Sprue are on their way to you as we speak. And if Darren was in first place, then who was in second? No, who's on first? What's on second? That's right. We're talking... So, chosen by Nick Iyer over at North Star Military Figures, we have, without any further ado, Dave Bousset. Oh, yes, my friend. Just continuing that winning streak. My goodness. It is a beautiful conversion you've done here with the VW Beetle. Just everything we've been talking about month on month. Just absolutely stunning custom framework, custom interiors, custom everything, custom engine bits, custom wings, custom jet engines. It's just continuing that standard that we've come to know and love from you now, Dave. And just, oh, my friend, what can I say? Enjoy the vehicle of Carnage Sprues that are on their way to you. And that is all for this month, my friends. It is time for us to move into 2023. Although at the time of the vehicle we're already in 2023, so you guys just ignore that and pretend this came out last year. But as we move forwards, there is one last challenge for you all on the horizon. One last video, one last time. That's right, boys and girls. I hope you tune in with me in a couple of weeks' time, because it will be time for Gaslands UK's Car of the Year video for 2022. Thank you, and I will see you then, Wastelanders. Bye-bye.